Hello, hello. So while I am no expert, so if anyone knows a bit more information about this, feel free to comment down below. Um, yeah, so since I came to Nepal, Kathmandu is the city where I've been staying, and there are three major ride-sharing apps that I've seen or know of. There's Patheo, there's Indrive, and there's Tootle. Now, the most popular ones are Indrive and Patheo, but Tootle actually did exist in Nepal for quite a while now, and they're trying to like make a resurgence, you know. And so, just like Uber, when they first started in cities, um, they gave these huge discounts or charged very little. They compensated the drivers, of course, but it made everyone sort of start using Uber. And then once their user base became bigger, then they started putting the regular price back in. And so, honestly, I would say that Tootle, currently, so September 2024, um, has been the best option to use. It's a bit slower than Pathao and InDrive. There's not as many drivers using it, but if you're using it in, um, I think off peak hours is the best time because when it's peak hours, everyone's using InDrive and Pathao, so there's no need for the drivers to even look at Tootle. Of course, you can still find a driver, but it takes a little bit longer. And oftentimes, the way Tootle works is it doesn't exactly show the driver where you are. So when I request a bike ride or a cab, it says to the driver who's maybe 2 or 3 kilometers away, look, there's a person, he's offering this much. Well, there's not an offer system in Tootle as there is in InDrive, but it will just sort of show that there's a person requesting a ride. And so the driver doesn't really see the distance until they accept it. And so oftentimes I have had the situation where the ride I want is like a kilometer or so, but the driver is 2 or 3 kilometers away, so it doesn't really make sense for them to come all the way over to me just to drive 1 kilometer. So I have had drivers call me and say, "Hey, can you cancel the ride? It's a bit out of my way. It doesn't make any sense." Um, but since I've arrived, I've talked to different drivers, bike riders, cab riders, and it has been this unanimous opinion that Pathao and Tootle are actually the best apps. InDrive does allow you to offer. So let's say the ride is 65 rupees. You can offer a bit lower. I mean, only a bit lower, so like 62.7, I think was what I saw. I think the more it costs, the more you can reduce the offer. And then it sort of sends your offer out to all the nearby drivers, and then they can offer different prices. So it's a bit of a barter system, but with the guarantee that you will pay the price that you agree upon. Um, I have negotiated with drivers. There was a moment where I needed to get somewhere really quickly, and the app was just super slow. And so I just walked up to a cab. I said, "Hey, I need to get here. How much?" And the one cab driver said 500. I said, "What the fuck? That's way too much." So then, right behind his cab was another cab. So I asked him, and I said, "Hey, this guy's offering 500. Do you offer less?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course, 400." So um, the barter system does work, but you need to be careful because oftentimes I've experienced this in Portugal. I haven't experienced this in Nepal yet, but you can agree upon a price, or the cab driver can say, "Yeah, like once we get there, I'll let you know the price." And this is a bad thing. Like, don't get into a cab or jump on a bike until you know the price of what you are paying, because and even then, like um, without sort of the app, you have less insurance. They can sort of because you can report people on the app, you know. So if they try to scam you and they say, "Oh well, like I want more money," you can report them, and then I don't know if you'll get compensated, but and also I don't like to argue. So if someone were to say, well, it says 50 in the app, but I want 100, I probably would end up giving it because yeah, I wouldn't want to mess around with that. Yeah. So Tootle, best app in my opinion because they have a lot of discounts right now. Um, Most of the time, I've been paying 100 rupees off. So a bike ride that, okay, that's simple math, but like a bike ride that costs 165, which is about, I think, 30 cents or so. Let me think. Um, 250 is about 1.5 euros. So I guess I'll put the math somewhere here. But yeah, so the rides have been very cheap with Tootle. The thing is, you think that the rides are, I mean, if you take the bike, it's cheaper and faster. It's a less safe though. But you think that you're saving a lot of money here, but I'm gonna try to write down all of my expenses and see if in the end I'm actually paying more than I was in Germany. Because in Germany, with the public transportation, I was paying 49 euros a month. Um, and oftentimes, like, because Kathmandu, it's walkable, but it's not super walkable, and you have to wear a mask. Well, I wear a mask because my lungs are weak, and there's a lot of pollution and smog and dust, and so walking around is just not the most comfortable. And it takes quite a bit to get to where you want to go. And so the bike rides are super reliable and super quick. And so I'm trying to see like sometimes in a day I'll have spent um, I don't know, like 3 to 6 euros, let's say, like that, traveling from one destination to the next and then back somewhere else and then back home. And so it does add up. And so I wonder, I do have a budget for transportation. And I think the recommended amount was like 10 euros per day for transportation. Um, I have definitely been using under that, especially with Tootle. I haven't been here the full month, but it'll be interesting to see if it's less or more than the 49 euro ticket. Um, it's definitely faster. I think Kathmandu is much smaller than Berlin, though. So price wise, I would say Tootle is the best at the moment. There was a time, like I think a day or two, where Tootle stopped giving the discounts. And then because it is a little bit slower, I just switched over to Patheo and was using that instead. Um, but then they start giving the discounts again, so I'm back on Tootle. So I'm unsure what their process is and how they've decided to give out the discounts. I think they have reduced in cost how much the discounts are, but so it used to be like up to 100 rupees off, and now it's only 50. But still, like I don't mind taking that. It's better to get some discount than none, and you wait an extra like 2 to 4 minutes for your ride. Like Pathao just has a larger base and Indrive as well, so you'll have your rider much quicker. Um, but for me, I mean, it's only a euro or so or less, but why not? I'm not in a rush. Um, and so, yeah, and so I was talking to one of the bike riders and I was asking him what his preferred app was, and he said he thinks Tootle was the best for users. It's not the best for drivers because it doesn't tell them where the person who wants to get picked up is, so sometimes they have to go a far way or they just have to call and ask them to cancel. And so my driver yesterday was also telling me that Tootle and Pathao are safer for the drivers as well. There's insurance so that if the driver gets screwed over, or I'm not sure exactly, like some sort of safety insurance, that the driver is also protected. And Indrive doesn't have this. And I think I think the ride sharing industry takes advantage of its drivers quite a bit, especially in the US. Recently, I saw a video of how different drivers all saw different rates for Uber. Like InDrive, even though it allows you to barter in a way, if it's not supporting its drivers, I'm not sure I want to use it. Um, So I think if I were to rank the apps, I would go, oh, by price, I would go Tootle, Patheo, Indrive. If I would rate them by convenience, I would rate it Patheo, Indrive, Tootle. Um, but another thing to know with the transportation here, there are buses. I don't think there's like a, you'll have to correct me in the comments. There's not really a network where you can like look up where the buses are online and where they're going and how much it costs. I think it's more of like a you should know, or you get to the bus and figure it out. And so if you are worried about safety, definitely go for the cabs. Um, Drivers here will cross solid lines, so they'll drive into the other lane. Everything's a little bit chaotic where they'll try to swerve. I mean, mostly the bikes are trying to go in between cars and stuff like that. But cars will actually do it as well, where they'll drive into the oncoming traffic lane and then overtake something, like overtake another cab. Anyways, I've been yapping. I hope you guys found this video somewhat helpful in case you are traveling in Nepal or you are planning on traveling in Nepal. If there are any Nepalese people who are watching this video and they say, "What the fuck, the facts that you are giving, or the you're missing something important," please leave it down in the comments below. I think it's so valuable if people come together and they share all the information they can. Yeah, anyways, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, friends. So that's the ride sharing apps out of the way. Now it's just tangent. So if that's all you wanted to watch, click off. One of the cab drivers I was talking to, he was an older gentleman, and he was telling me that if you get the bikes, it's usually younger people, and um, this I think is quite true. Most of the drivers I've had are in their 20s. A lot of them actually are the same age as I am, 25. But I wonder if they're just saying that so that they can like have better conversation and then hopefully get a tip from me. Um, but everyone has been so kind. I've only had one poor experience with a driver. I mean, poor experience as in I had an argument with a driver actually, but I have had some scary experiences where I was sitting on the back of a bike and we were going over some extremely uneven ground, and it felt as if I was about to fall off because you can hold on to the driver, but even they're bouncing. So that's you're not really like, and if you're bouncing backwards, you're pulling the driver back, and so yeah, it's a bit uncomfortable and a bit difficult at times. But I've only had one experience with a driver who he was definitely in his early 20s. He sped so much, and it was kind of scary because he was like going in between cars, going into oncoming traffic. Um, and someone told me that, oh yeah, cars and bikes are allowed to do that when it's like a dotted line, or yeah, like not a solid line. But I've definitely seen and experienced bikes and cars, sorry, cabs, going over solid lines. Now, I'm not a driver, but according to what the people are saying, like that's illegal. But regardless, I think it's quite interesting because you don't get helmets either when you're on the bikes, and it's kind of a tricky situation because on one hand that's incredibly unsafe. So if you get in a car crash or a bike crash, like you're dead. Like I don't think you would survive because you won't have a helmet, you don't have protective gear. Even the drivers, they're only wearing a helmet. They don't have any protective gear most of the time. But then also, where do you get the helmet? Like, do you have to buy a helmet and then carry it around with you? So and everyone is driving these bikes, so you kind of think it's like this herd mentality where you're like, oh, everyone's doing it, so it's fine. I've seen whole entire families on a bike before where it's the, I guess it's the either the bike driver or the dad, and he's on the bike with a child sitting on his lap. Behind him is another child sitting on the mom's lap, which is sitting on the back seat. So it's quite interesting to um, see how that works. It's quite yeah, it's quite interesting. Um, but yeah, so it's definitely unsafe. Like one wrong move and you're dead, you know? I've not okay, I've been in one bike accident, but it was not that bad. I was with a friend, we were riding his motorcycle, and it was like uphill, and then it was also uneven ground, and so he pushed the engine so that it would go up, but because it was like on a slant, the whole bike just fell over. Um, Luckily, it didn't slide down the down the hill or anything like that. But knock on wood, let's hope that that is the only car crash I get into or bike crash I get into here. Um, yeah, like because of the extreme weather, it's been raining still quite a bit in September. Usually the monsoon season um, ends in August or beginning of September. Um, the roads are actually quite unsafe between the cities. There's been a lot of mudslides, um, and a lot of buses have just been taken off the road and stuff like this. And so my Annapurna trek, where I have to take a bus to get to Pokhara from Kathmandu, I postponed it a little bit, so now it's in October. Hopefully the roads are a bit safer. Um, and some people might say, "Oh, why don't you fly?" Because flying from Kathmandu to Pokhara, it's only I think an hour less, 30 minutes, and then taking the bus is about 9 hours. And you know, I would have done it if I hadn't heard from a lot of my Nepali friends that the airplanes here are incredibly unsafe, and there's a lot of crashes. Even recently, I think in the beginning of September, there was a crash. And so they were saying, like, don't fly the airlines. They've had friends pass away because of it, and it's quite scary, actually. Um, but then again, like if you are in peak rainy season, then you have to also be careful on the roads. So buses, for example, aren't they're just as likely to get mudslided off the mountain. Um, yeah, so it's quite interesting. Like safety measures, you have to really, really be careful. Um, but then on the other hand, sometimes I don't know. It's a tough testament because you can just say like, oh well, um, YOLO, right? Everything can technically kill you, so you can't be afraid of everything all the time. I guess you have to take it with a grain of salt, you know. Like if you see a driver being reckless, you can be like, hey, like slow down, please don't do this, um, or something like that. I want to ride one of the buses and just go the full route just to see what it's like, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. And I think I'll wait until October or November where it cools off because I don't think the buses have air conditioning. And I know it's very bougie of me to want air conditioning on my buses, but it's really hot here at the moment. I'm dying in my apartment. I'm running the fan at night and I'm still sweating. I've been seeing so many people wearing long pants, long shirt, even like overcoats, you know? And I have no idea how they're not sweating and dying. Like I'm in my shorts and t-shirt and I'm sweating so much. Like this is a cotton shirt, or I don't think it's a cotton shirt, but it's like one of the less sweat resistant. It's very sweat absorbent. Um, and so I've decided not to wear any of these shirts outside of the house because I sweat so quickly. And unless I'm wearing one of my sports shirts, the sweat just stays. And then I'm wet all day. And it's fucking so terrible.